Welcome back to the ASUS ROG DreamLeague live here from the DreamHack Monster Energy Studios. We just witnessed Game 1 of Alliance versus Monkey Business. And how can we possibly sum up that game in limited time? I mean...
Crit Venomancer.
Crit Venomancer.
Kills them all.
Buy pipe earlier. That's a good summary of that game,
Fly
I think.
with the dazzle. Just saw 1 point with the Graves.
I think worth mentioning, though, is there were a lot of people that joined us for the tail end of that game, but the first 25 minutes, Alliance played really well. They took out those first 2 lanes of barracks at the 25-minute mark, 22-minute mark, something like that. Yeah. They played really crisp. They had a really early mech, and they deathballed around it pretty effectively. And 30 minutes in, I would have said, this is crippling damage, but...
Then Critter shows up.
They took the first 2 lane of Rex with the Axe ult already available on the Venomancer side, so it wasn't just the Axe ult that did it. It was everything else. And I have the clip to show it.
Okay,
let's see.
Well, let's go straight into the clip, so it is time for a luminous analysis.
All right, so this upcoming fight, they already lost 1 mid-Rax, but they do have the Venomancer ult, and this clip is to show you how little damage that Monkey Business had. So let's actually jump into clip and see what they got.
Little damage.
What little damage they got.
Little damage.
All right, so this is your standard smoke gang situation. We saw a ton of this. And Venomancer literally just walks in and gets an ult on 5 people, right? So normally you think, all right, or 4, because the snowball disjointed one. But you just realize that Slark was in there to actually right-click. Nobody. Big Daddy got lassoed out. Moon can't actually walk in. So essentially everybody took a huge Veno ult. But because Miracle as well as the Ember Spirit cannot stay alive long enough to do damage, they kind of all just had to back off and they just lost that team fight. Kind of flat out. And I believe that off of this fight, they lost the bottom Rex, or they got pushed like a tier 2 or tier 3 afterwards. You guys all talked about how everybody, or Venomancer was the MVP, Ember Spirit is the MVP. Actually, for me, the MVP this game is Moon Meander.
Okay.
And the item choices. Particularly the Maelstrom and the Mjolnir that was purchased. At the beginning, I was like, why are they getting Mjolnir, not Battle Fury? Because Battle Fury gives you the immediate damage. Yeah. This clip shows how much damage these lightning procs are coming out. So also, another very huge item purchase is, if you look at Admiral Bulldog, right, he's a designated tank in the front line. But what Miracle did was he got an early purchase Silver Edge. We all know what Silver Edge can do against Bristleback. You take away his passive, and then he becomes essentially paper. So, yoink. All right, there goes his passive. And there's that Venomancer ult, which only hit 3 people. And look at how quickly Admiral Bulldog is dying. And this fight, despite with Admiral Bulldog dying, it still looked pretty bad until you just look at Miracle in the middle of the Firefly. He literally just walked on the Firefly and the lightnings are just bouncing non-stop. Yeah. And it's just killing everybody. And sure, yeah, Monkey lost a couple of heroes in this fight, but all that matters is they defended the base. Particularly the Lotus Orb from Moon Meander and how it prevented a couple of bad ultimates was absolutely huge.
It's amazing.
They got 2 Mjolnirs, they got 1 Lotus Orb, and at the end,
the Veil to amplify it all as well.
Yeah, the Veil was big. At the end, what nailed it for me was they got an Octarina under Night Stalker, so it was perma-night. Alliance was playing with no vision, and that's why some of the later fight was so difficult for them. So.
Yeah.
Do you feel like, obviously it's all over Reddit, it's all over Twitch that Alliance threw. Do you feel like that's the case, or is it just a case of Monkey Business actually playing their cards very tight but extremely well?
I think it was more of the latter. The only thing that you could say hindsight for Alliance is maybe you go for the BKB. Sure, BKB doesn't really block Venom Ultimate because afterwards you still take BKB damage, but it definitely blocks all the Mjolnir damage. It blocks all the well, actually, it was really the Mjolnir early on. For me, that was the burst they needed. They were killing them very slowly, but you can't kill a Necrophos team slowly because he just heals them back up and they outlast you with things like Chain Frost and the Bristleback Krill Spray. But that's really a hindsight 2020 thing.
What about prioritizing the pipe a lot earlier? I think they got the pipe at 55 minutes or so in a 75-minute game.
That would have done it as well.
Yeah, it would have made a big difference, I think. It also felt like Ember Spirit was just the perfect hero to deal with that situation. He's one of the best carries in terms of scaling with farm towards the late game, but the way that he's able to contribute to fights, BOT back to the base, heal up, push out the creep wave. They were able to manage 2 lanes of racks down so early on, so effectively, and I think so much of that is just because of Ember Spirit.
Having Slark and Dazzle on the same team as well allowed Miracle to completely overextend and rely on Fly to back him up, so he didn't have to use the ultimate. before he was going to die, he could save it. You know, for them 5 seconds of grave, and that allowed him to kind of constantly go in and out of the fights and just.
I just have 2 more points. I know there's a lot to say about this.
Do it, Lumi.
I thought a Solar Crest on the side of Radiant would have been helpful a lot as well, because every fight they focus on the Bristleback first, and he had no evasion. I don't think Silver Edge Break takes away evasion granted by items, right? Or at least a Solar Crest buff.
No.
I don't think so.
It disables passives, but it doesn't remove buffs.
Right, so
Correct.
giving the evasion to, he had what, AC and a ton of items, he could have survived for such a long time and dealt much more damage. The other thing is you really saw the weakness of Necrophos. In any other scenario, if a carry gets jumped, like he could at least cast some spells and deal whatever damage he could have dealt. But Necrophos is one of those heroes that if he gets jumped or his team gets jumped, you can't just throw out your ultimate, because his ultimate can only...
You need to wait for the timing.
Yeah, you have to time it in an appropriate manner. And when he got jumped on in some of the fights where he died back and didn't do anything, all he did was like Death Pulse.
Yeah, it's like the first 25 minutes you saw the power of Necro because they played around it so well. But in the second half of that game, it was the opposite that happened.
That had a lot to do with the Night Stalker Ags, though, and the Bat Rider getting shut down because of that. Like, every time they'd smoke gank, they had like complete vision of where they were going. Like, there was one they were walking up middle, and they had the Night Stalker vision on the high ground of Bat Rider, actually.
Well, that was a very long game, so there is a lot to talk about regarding that game. But I think for Alliance mostly, it's going to be important to forget about that game and focus on the next game. We are actually in the draft already. For Alliance, I can imagine